Starting with the ankles. If you have a restriction, pulling your toes up towards your calf, which basically means, bending your ankle like you would when you're squatting. If you have a restriction, then what's often going to happen is that your knees are going to dive together. So you see this all the time. People go down to squat and their knees come in like this, right? They rotate their feet out and their knee goes in. And we talked about if you have a restriction out of mobile joint, then it puts your stable joint at risk. And so my knee is only supposed to bend forward and backwards. And if my feet are pointing that way and my knee's going this way, instead of my knee going like this, since my hip and my foot aren't going towards each other, they're going towards each other at an angle, I'm twisting as opposed to bending. Okay, so now I'm twisting my knee. If you've ever seen anyone have a non-contact ACL injury in a soccer game or something, they go to cut and change direction. They get a high force movement with their toe facing that way, and then instead of their knee staying right over their toe and then pushing off and going the other way, their foot goes that way, their knee goes in, their ACL rips and they fall on the ground. And that's how that happens. Their knee goes in. Maybe it's poor ankle mobility, maybe it's a strength thing, maybe it's a fatigue thing, who knows? But that's how you tear your ACL. And a lot of times your MCL, that ligament on the inside, and your meniscus, all that cartilage in there is kind of brought in for the ride. So we always want to keep our knees over our toes. And if we have more ankle mobility, we're more able to do that. You're also more likely to sprain your ankles if you have poor ankle mobility, which is kind of counterintuitive. People say, I have loose ankles, I always sprain my ankles, and usually it's the opposite. Usually I have really tight ankles, and so what happens is instead of my foot bending, can everybody see me okay? Instead of my foot, we'll go like this. Instead of my foot bending this way, since I have poor ankle mobility, I go like this. And this position is the same as this position. Does everyone see that? Okay. And this is a rolled ankle, right? This, with 2 feet, this position here, if I kept everything the same and put my knee out, is a rolled ankle. Does everyone see that? Okay. So you're more likely to roll your ankle because your ankle's searching for the path of least resistance. If I can't go over, I'm going to go to the side. Like I said, you're more likely to twist your knee. At the hip, if my knee's going in, it means my hip is internally rotating. What's common there is that if my hip's internally rotating, it means my hip external rotators, my glute and my hamstring, aren't working very well. So my adductors oftentimes and my hamstrings are going to take over for hip extension since my glute isn't working anymore. As a result, since those other muscles don't control the position of that bone in the socket, that bone will kind of float forward. Your hips kind of look like this. And so what will happen is this thing that's supposed to stick in like that will roll forward and it'll jam into the front of your hip and you'll get a pinching feeling. You'll feel like you pulled a hip flexor, but it's really that bone running into bone. Okay, that's called femoral acetabular impingement. So you get a lot of hip issues, you get back issues, you get shin splints, you get a whole bunch of stuff. So ankle mobility is a problem for a whole lot of joints. So we gotta stretch it and mobilize it. And then one thing that's also important is you got to wear proper footwear. So a lot of people will walk around all day with elevated heels in their boots or their high heels or what have you. And if your toes pointed all day long, if you're in this position all day long, stretching your ankles like that for 2 minutes a day isn't going to beat out the other 23 some odd hours a day where you're in this other opposite position. Okay? So wearing flat footwear like our Innovates, like Vibrams, and there's a lot of minimal footwear that's coming out these days, but having a flatter heel is going to help you get out of that chronically toe-pointed position. All right, so this is a better position or a better figure since you can actually see the foot rotating in, the knee diving in, and then that bone kind of rolling forward this way and running into the front of the hip. In the running world, they call that, you're an overpronator. This would be a normal foot, and then if your knee dives in because you have bad ankle mobility, your foot kind of rolls to the inside. Okay? So I want you guys to look for that when you're watching people train and when you're watching people squat. When we break up into our groups again here in a minute, everyone's going to do a squat in the ankle group, and you guys can all watch each other, and you can see the people that are knees out with a good arch in their foot, and you can see the people who kind of push their butt back and their knees come together like this. Like this. This is how you should look. And you can see here my knees are diving together. My feet are at the same angle, but you can see the inside of my foot's kind of flattening out. My knees are rotating in, and then as my knees come in, it pushes my butt back. As my butt gets pushed back, I need to roll my upper body forward to keep the weight over my feet, and it throws me all out of whack. Okay? So, I mean, poor ankle mobility, since I'm leaning forward, my elbows are down now, could hurt my wrists. So someone goes, my wrist really hurts. So I'm like, yeah, we need to fix your ankles. And they're just like, what? Right? So that's the symptom, but it's not the cause. The cause is the ankles, and it's causing a whole lot of problems up your whole entire chain. So you got to find out why the thing is happening. And in this case, we'll say it's ankles. Okay? Of course, we explain why that is, but initially it's very shocking to hear that as a response. Other movements. This is a clean. Again, good position. Bad position. Knees together, feet flattening out. If my knees don't dive together, I keep my knee over a toe, but you can see in this case, my knee is blocked, so I have zero, we'll call it 0 inches of ankle mobility, because usually you measure from the point of your toe there. If I can't push my knees beyond my toe like this, if I can't push my knee out in front because I'm blocked, I don't have enough ankle mobility to do it correctly like that. In this case, I have like, 5 inches over my toe to do a proper front squat all the way down. If I'm blocked and I can't do that, this is all the lower I can go with a straight neutral spine. If I want to go lower without diving my knees in, then I have to roll my back to stay from falling over backwards. Okay, you guys are going to try this too. So again, same thing with a barbell. Good position, that's all the lower I can go. If I want to go lower without my knees diving together, then I got to compensate with my low back. So the range of motion will come from somewhere, but having it come from your knee over your low back, those stable joints, is going to get them hurt, one or the other. So if I had more ankle range of motion, and I can push my knees further forward, then I can get a nice neutral spine, knees out all the way to the bottom, and it's no issue. So is squatting low bad for your joints or bad for your knees or whatever? Only if you don't have the range of motion to do it correctly. If you do, then it's no big deal. What was that? Okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. When we break up into the groups, you're going to keep your heel on the ground. You're going to put your big toe on a box, and you're going to slide without your knee going in. The box is going to block it from diving to the inside. You can see how far you can bend your ankle. The coaches will show you how to do that. Another assessment is the pistol assessment. Put your feet all the way together and see if you can squat all the way down to the very bottom without falling over, which is basically the same position that you would be in a pistol. Another good way to know if you have enough ankle range of motion. So if you do have a restriction, what do you do about it? The soft tissue work you guys already talked about, and I have pictures of all this stuff, so we're going to skip right over them. In the meantime, until you have that restriction figured out, you want to do exercises where you have a vertical shin. Your ankle isn't bent very much. That way you can do the movement correctly. You can still train your legs. You can still train the rest of your system without putting your knees or your low back at risk while you're trying to, at the same time, improve your ankle range of motion either before or after your workout by stretching throughout the rest of the day. So bad exercises would be something where you bend your ankles a whole lot. Olympic weightlifting, overhead squats, pistols, things that require a lot of range of motion at the ankle aren't going to be very friendly to your joints until you clear up that restriction. So here's your examples. Again, vertical shin. Okay, that's, I don't need any ankle range of motion. That's basically the same amount of range of motion that I would need from just standing here normal. No big deal. Same thing here. I could even, if I have a lot of weight, I might even be at a negative shin angle where my shin's kind of angled backwards a little bit. I can do good mornings or RDLs. That's a good morning. For those of you who haven't done a good morning before, where you're just bending at the hip. I can do box squats that are, just a parallel where I have a vertical shin. Kettlebell swing, same way. I'm swinging the kettlebell and my butt's going back and my shins are staying vertical. As far as your mobilizations go, you guys might have done this over in the voodoo band station. Just a rocking ankle mob, toe up or ankle up, and then heel towards the ground. Just doing little calf raises basically. A good one to do as part of your warm up. And then stretching your calves on the wall, hip forward, squeezing your butt, and just stretching your calf as much as you can. 2 minutes per side, a couple times a day, goes a long way to keeping your calves nice and mobile.